I'm a data analyst at a big tech company, and I write a lot of code. This is my journey from my first time looking at code as a 12-year-old hacker to the point now where I'm paid 6 figures for writing code 12 years later. I want to share some of the biggest mistakes and shortcuts that I've had over the last 12 years, so hopefully your journey from learning to code to making money from it will be much faster than mine. This path really is accessible to anyone with a love for technology and a drive to learn. I want to show you how I'm able to live my dream life, all from learning how to code, so you can too. I have loved tech as early as I can remember. There are still videos somewhere on YouTube of me at 12 years old teaching people how to optimize their jailbroken iPod Touch.
Hey everybody, it's JackTech1000 here for my first video tutorial. Today is how to get icy.
On Apple devices, a jailbreak is the use of a private echelon exploit to remove software restrictions imposed by Apple, the manufacturer. This meant that my 12-year-old self could get access to cool moving backgrounds that Apple didn't support, custom icons, and I could even get paid apps for free. Definitely not ethical, but still pretty cool. And I don't even know if this technically counts as my first time writing code, but I remember changing one line of something in a notepad editor a long time ago, so I'm counting it. School and life got in the way for a while, and I lost sight of tech while playing middle school football, stressing over my grades, and procrastinating my homework. But I played video games through this entire period, so this was the one constant as far as tech went. Modern Warfare 2 really hooked me. Not the new one, the old one. And not just the gameplay, but specifically trick shotting and quick scoping. Not regular Call of Duty, this stuff. I had to learn how to record clips on my Xbox with capture cards and figure out how to upload, edit, and send them to my friends through Skype. And while this didn't directly have anything to do with coding, I met a lot of really technical savvy people through this, and a lot of them were into some of the darker aspects of programming. Hackers. I learned from them and started messing with some simple programs and created viruses that my friends and I would send back and forth to each other. Nothing ever super malicious, stuff like an exe file that played Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up 1,000 times every second until you restarted your computer. I was learning, I was building, but it was all still just a game. And I never thought there was any way I could possibly make money off any of these skills. After messing with some homemade viruses, I got pretty into the idea of becoming a hacker. I started using tools like Cain and Abel, Low Orbit Ion Cannon, or LOIC, and some other pen testing tools to essentially cause chaos in online games. My friends and I had upped our antics and we were launching full DDoS attacks on each other, knocking each other offline, sometimes for hours at a time. But it turned out some people did not take too kindly to our mischief, and as a result of this, I was doxxed several times and had people send large amounts of pizza to my childhood home. After that, I had kind of given up on the hacker lifestyle because I was genuinely starting to become afraid of these and thought that I probably shouldn't be committing cybercrimes at 14 years old. I can't actually remember too much from this time period other than I was a 16-year-old in high school who had no idea what the hell to do with my life. I knew that I loved tech, but I never thought I was smart enough to be an engineer. I was contemplating different college majors, but I honestly didn't see a path that led to me making money from tech. I didn't think much about coding again until I was 17 years old. I watched the HBO show Silicon Valley, and I fell in love with the idea of being able to build something from nothing, or being able to build the life that I wanted because of my technical skills. It sounds kind of funny to say I learned to code because of a TV show, but it's partially true. It showed me that having this skill and knowing how to code was almost like magic, that you could create real, tangible things from just your ideas. So I decided to learn to code for real. I basically spent the entire next year just trying to find out where to even start. There are hundreds of coding languages and hundreds of different career paths, and I still had no idea what the difference was between a front-end and a back-end developer. I was completely overwhelmed and had no idea which rabbit hole to follow. So I learned more about each path, and I just kind of stuck with what interested me. I really like art, design, and creative work, so I thought front-end/web development would be good for me. So that's where I started, even though that's not where I ended up. Completed my first real coding tutorial on codeacademy.com and I was hooked. I started with HTML and my brain exploded when I learned how to change the background of a web page from white to green. This is when I really fell in love with building stuff. Blasted through tons of tutorials almost every single day from March to August. I learned some HTML, CSS, object-oriented programming, Python, SQL, Ruby on Rails, and even some PHP. I was just feverishly absorbing all of the tutorials that I could so I could find out what I really wanted to focus on. I never actually got too deep into any of these programming language from doing these tutorials, and it's not really the route that I would recommend now. So to get more serious about building websites and learning object-oriented programming, I signed up for the Udacity Intro to Programming Nano degree on July 8th, 2017, and went more in depth on HTML, CSS, Python, and JavaScript. Not long after that, I found out about machine learning and the mysterious world of AI. So I enrolled in the AI Programming Nano degree by Udacity. A bit outside my depth, but I was excited. This is where I initially learned about Python notebooks, pandas, other Python libraries, as well as got my first glimpse at neural networks. I had likely taken more online classes, but I had graduated high school and things were getting real in life. I had to start thinking about finding a real job, not just doing tutorials and building side projects. Knowing that I couldn't land any of the roles I wanted to with nothing but a few online tutorials on my resume, I enrolled in a local community college as a general engineering major. 4 classes, none of which were computer science because they weren't offered during that semester, and plus I didn't have the higher level math credits to get into the really advanced coding classes. I was still thinking about tech, but was more confused than ever about how to actually break into the industry. And honestly, I was starting to lose hope. After my semester at community college, I applied to the University at Colorado Boulder, and luckily, I was accepted. I decided that I was going to study information science, which is basically computer science with a focus on data. I took a bunch of classes my first semester, but could only take one computer science type class, and in that class, I had to relearn Python from the beginning. I felt like I was going to be 30 before I landed a job because of the super long course lengths and the 4 years it took to even get to the high level CS classes. I had been learning to code for 2 years now and was being forced to learn what a for loop was again. And so I dropped out with no plan at all. I didn't have a job lined up, I didn't have experience, and I barely had any skills, but I had a dream of breaking into the tech industry, and I would not stop until I did it. The semester after I left university, desperate to build skills that could make me money, I enrolled in YouTuber Siraj Raval's Make Money with Machine Learning course. And this infamous course, despite all of the public backlash, was an amazing course, and I met insanely smart people who I still talk to today. But I just wasn't at the point where I could bootstrap my own machine learning company at like 18 years old. And Siraj's course, as much as I love the guy, wasn't gonna give me any FANG interviews. Dropped out of college and basically out of options, I stumbled upon Lambda School, now Bloom Institute of Technology. They're a coding bootcamp that was offering me a way to break into the tech industry from the back door. Not getting a college degree, not having traditional industry experience, they promised that with time, grit, a dream of breaking into the tech industry, and lots of hours of studying, that I could do. So I signed my income share agreement and started learning data science and machine learning. It was an amazing experience, and I can't even tell you how much I think coding bootcamps far exceed the value you can get from college, but that is not what I'm here to talk about today. In March of 2020, I created my personal website and started hosting my side project. I also started my Medium account and started writing blog posts about machine learning and data science. I competed in some Kaggle competitions and interned for 2 small startups. Scribble Stadium was a company that I got to work with as part of my coding bootcamp. I helped create an optical character recognition model that translated children's handwriting with high accuracy. And I worked with a team of cross-functional engineers to take this data science work and turn it into a full-fledged machine learning product. Then I did a brief stint at Mountain as a data science intern where I used Twitter data and sentiment analysis to find influencers who were aligned with the Mountain Co brand. Basically sustainable, environmentally friendly clothing. After dropping out of college, completing tons of tutorials, graduating from a coding bootcamp, racking up tons of side projects, and interning at 2 small startups, the real job search began. It was a painful process filled with a ton of rejection. But I learned a lot. I iterated on my resume close to 10 times trying to find an optimal version and one that would pass all of the automated application checks. I learned how to code in front of people without getting nervous, which I definitely could not do before my interview process. I conducted take-home analysis projects in Python and SQL and presented my findings to an entire panel of interviewers. Just the process of interviewing and looking for jobs helped me grow as an engineer even more. Here are some stats for my job search process. So my job search timeline was from October 2020 to July 2021. So 9 months. I sent in 150 to 200 plus applications, 100 of which were rejected and 65 plus of which were completely ghosted, meaning I heard nothing from the company after it. I interviewed with 6 total companies for a total of 10 interviews, 6 of which were technical/coding interviews. And on June 28th, 2021, after 4 months and 5 rounds of interviewing with this one company, I was hired as a data analyst too. If you're interested about my interviews, there's a link in the description to a blog post that I talk about all of the coding interviews that I ever did. For the last 1.5 years, I've worked professionally as a data analyst at my current company, finally making a living from writing code. I do a lot of data analysis and report building in SQL, Mode, and Tableau at my current job, but I recently started a data engineering rotation, so now my job more consists of building and automating data pipelines and working with Python more and more. And that brings us to today. That was my 12 years of coding in, I hope, 12 minutes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you next time.